In the mid-1990s, the internet was beginning to accelerate business, but communication remained physically tethered. To send an email or review a document, you had to be sitting directly in front of a heavy, hardwired desktop computer. The moment an executive walked out of the office, that digital connection vanished. High-level decision-makers were entirely cut off from the flow of information until they returned to their desks. In Waterloo, Ontario, an engineering purist named Mike Lazaridis partnered with Jim Balsillie, a Harvard MBA, to solve the specific disconnect. Together, they formed Research in Motion. The immediate hurdle was wireless bandwidth. Their solution was to engineer a system that squeezed massive data packets into tiny, efficient streams, allowing them to sip bandwidth and travel quickly over the slow, limited cellular networks of the time. By eliminating this data bottleneck, mobile communication stopped being a one-way street of passive pager alerts.
It became an active, two-way dialogue. In 1999, the company released the interactive pager 850. It bypassed the standard numeric keypad for a small, thumb-typable QWERTY keyboard. Crucially, it utilized a system called push email. Instead of requiring users to manually dial in or command the device to sync, messages were pushed to the hardware the exact instant they hit the server. The ability to type full replies from an airport or taxi, paired with the constant, instant vibration of new incoming messages, created intense user dependency. The cultural term CrackBerry emerged to describe the physical compulsion to constantly check the screen. To achieve this seamless connection, Research in Motion built an incredibly secure, closed fortress. But the exact architecture they designed to dominate the corporate world would eventually lock them into a trap. The foundation of BlackBerry's global dominance was completely invisible to the end user. It was the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, or BES. This diagram illustrates the BES architecture. The server sat directly inside a company's internal firewall. All external email data routed exclusively and securely through RIM's own network operations center into the locked corporate server. This granted IT departments absolute control to enforce military-grade encryption, restrict applications, and remotely wipe lost devices. Leaving this ecosystem required dismantling massive IT infrastructure, retraining an entire workforce, and convincing compliance officers to rewrite established security protocols from scratch. Secure in this market position, executive attention drifted inward. In 2007, an internal audit revealed the company had been improperly backdating stock options. Navigating the resulting SEC investigation and multi-million-dollar penalties drained focus and strained the relationship between Lazaridis and Balsillie. The sheer difficulty of replacing a BlackBerry server gave leadership a false sense of security. While they managed internal disputes, a distinct consumer revolution was brewing entirely outside the corporate firewall. When Apple unveiled the original iPhone in 2007, BlackBerry leadership largely dismissed it. They viewed the open ecosystem device as a fragile toy with poor battery life that lacked the rigorous security standards required for serious business. But consumer demand rapidly moved away from secure email utilities and toward full mobile computing. Facing pressure from Verizon to deliver a direct competitor to AT&T's exclusive iPhone contract, BlackBerry panicked and rushed production. In late 2008, they launched the BlackBerry Storm. To appease executives who believed users needed tactile feedback, they engineered SurePress technology, an entire glass screen mounted on physical click switches to mimic the feel of a keyboard. The hardware was flawed, and the operating system was highly unstable. Almost every single unit of the first million shipped was returned, leaving the company to absorb a $500 million loss. The failure exposed a structural inability to build for the consumer. They had tried to force mechanical hardware logic onto a fluid, touch-based interface. Their design philosophy was so heavily rooted in the rigid logic of the corporate IT department, they were incapable of creating products that individuals actually wanted to use. This closed mindset extended to their software. BlackBerry Messenger was incredibly popular, but leadership refused to release it on competing operating systems, alienating millions of users who were moving to new devices. The defensive moat finally broke with the Bring Your Own Device movement. Executives simply started bringing their personal iPhones to the office, forcing IT departments to adapt and support outside hardware. In October 2011, a massive failure at a core facility triggered a 2-day global network blackout.
For a company whose entire value proposition rested on unbreakable reliability, the outage was devastating. Their most vital asset, trust, was compromised in public view. You can see the impact on this chart. After hitting peak global market share around 2009, BlackBerry's position plummeted. By 2013, as iOS and Android surged, BlackBerry's market share dropped to less than 5%. The tightly controlled architecture that had once guaranteed their monopoly became the exact mechanism that choked their ability to compete in an open, consumer-driven market. By late 2013, the company was in freefall. They brought in turnaround specialist John Chen to take over as CEO. Chen evaluated the remaining assets and realized the company still possessed highly valuable security software, but the physical phone division was burning through cash. In 2016, BlackBerry made the decision to officially cease all internal manufacturing of mobile phones. To survive bankruptcy, they had to abandon the physical device that had defined their identity for over a decade. Shedding the consumer hardware market allowed BlackBerry to return to its roots, enterprise software and high-assurance cybersecurity. Today, their QNX operating system runs quietly in the background of the automotive industry. It serves as the secure, foundational software for infotainment and driver assistance systems in hundreds of millions of modern vehicles. They expanded their footprint in AI-driven endpoint security, acquiring firms like Cylance to identify threats and protect sprawling corporate networks and modern digital workspaces. They took the rigid principles of their old corporate server and abstracted them into an invisible, ubiquitous shield that protects critical data across the globe. A technology company's longevity is rarely tied to the physical product people hold in their hands. Survival ultimately depends on the invisible infrastructure that keeps those systems running safely in the background.